about to join Don Neuen, co-host of Cowboy Logic Radio, and Denise Simon, host of the Denise Simon Experience, for a weekly situation report, or SITREP. 18 hours a day, Denise Simon lives her life as an Intel Analyst. 18 hours a day, Don Neuen lives his life in the world of rock and roll. 1 hour each day, Neuen receives a daily SITREP from Simon. Welcome to the Drive Time Situation Report. Fasten your seatbelt. You're now in Don Neuen's car, and he is calling in for his SITREP.
Hello.
Hey, I was expecting a smell.
You smell out.
There you go. Hello, Denise Simon. Ladies and gentlemen, let me welcome you to tonight's Drive Time Situation Report as I whip out of the parking lot, and I'm now speeding up so that I don't get hit in the rear end by a fellow commuter. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Drive Time Sit Rep with Denise Simon on one end of this conversation and myself, Don Neuen, on the other. You are in my car, driving home with me after a long, grueling day of work, and I am calling in to Denise Simon for my nightly situation report, which I do every night, except last night, Denise. I couldn't get you to answer the phone.
I had other things to do.
Yeah, I'm sure. But were they more important than me?
No, but I was on another long marathon phone call.
All right, well, we'll let you slide.
Okay.
So, ladies and gentlemen, you are going with me tonight on my drive home, and I've got to get really caught up since I didn't talk to Denise last night. And so we're going to get right after it. What do you say, Denise? Let's timestamp the show because we got a lot to talk about.
Yes, it is 7:37 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the 30th of January in the year of our Lord 2018.
Excellent. Denise, and let's tell the listeners why we're calling in tonight, or I'm calling in tonight at a relatively early hour as compared to most of the Drive Time Sit Reps, and that's because of one State of the Union speech that's going to take place in which Donald Trump is going to attempt to unite the entire country.
Yeah. And the pomp and circumstance that's been leading up to this for the last 48 hours. Media is all over the place. Sonny Perdue is the designated survivor. So he is in some unknown location. And First Lady, I think, has brought 13 guests. I don't know how many Trump has invited or other people have invited. I think we have around a dozen, maybe a dozen and a half Democrats that have boycotted the attending tonight, like we really care to start with. But we need to get a final roster on who they are, because I think it would be very significant that the Republicans use that roster to their benefit, to say that, here's a guy that's, giving a State of Union to reach out and kind of bring this whole country together. We've been through a year of polarization, and this is a moment where you can start 2018 and blah, 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 on a good foot. And you've already got a handful of Democrats who went, not doing it.
Yeah, because they're gonna invite anybody controversial, anybody anti-Trump, anybody that's got an agenda or pushing something that's clearly going to divide the country further. Is that what you're saying?
Well, they don't even want to try. That's clear. Adam Schiff and what he's had to say, that's pretty clear in the last 48 hours over the 4-page memo. You've got, a dozen and a half Democrats that just blew this off. Ruth Bader Ginsburg's not showing up either. Not that she would,
really? She's not going to attend, huh?
No, not that she would stay awake, but nonetheless.
Let me ask you this. To your knowledge, when's the last time that a Supreme Court justice did not attend a State of the Union?
I think last year well, there have been a couple, and some of them have been for various reasons, but she has no reason this year.
Well, I could understand health or some other type of a commitment that just couldn't be avoided, but I assure you the reason she's not there is because she's doing this in protest of Trump, right?
My guess says so. I can't prove it, but yeah, that's my guess.
Okay. Well, we're counting the days till she can no longer sit on that Supreme Court. All right, so let's talk about the memo. What can you update me on the memo? Because clearly
I do want to make some distinctions. Right, I want to make some distinction about this 4-page memo. Christopher Wray and who is the new director of the FBI, I think took a couple of the FBI lawyers with him Sunday night when they went over to the Hill to view the 4-page memo. In that visit, the question was asked, is there anything in here that needs to be, 1, removed, or 2, should be disputed? In other words, that shouldn't be in there. And the answer to that was no. So that is significant. And I believe that needs to be held up in a big, huge, fat poster, the answer to be no, in front of Adam Schiff's face, because he and his fellow Democrats have pushed back hard on this memo. The memo then yesterday.
Well, hold on a second. Aren't they all? And when I say they all, I mean Adam Schiff and his left-leaning liberal Marxist commie colleagues. Aren't they all claiming that releasing this memo is, releasing classified information that has absolutely no business, going to be detrimental to national security? It's a breach of this, and they're making it seem like, we're going to be disclosing a whole bunch of war secrets that we're going to be using against North Korea.
The Department of Justice has said the same thing.
Who at the Department of Justice?
The Department of Justice, I don't know who signed the letter, but the letter was approved to go to Devin Nunes, and they objected to it being released.
On what grounds?
For all the same reasons.
And did Sessions put his handprint?
I do not know who signed it. I do not know, but apparently it was approved by whomever, certainly coming out of the Public Affairs Office at the Department of Justice, and went to the Nunes Committee.
Well, if Sessions didn't stamp that with his approval, the fact that it came out of the DOJ doesn't mean a whole lot to me, at least, and correct me if I'm wrong.
Well, look, we know that there are some real burrowed in holdovers from the Eric Holder, Loretta Lynch Department of Justice that are still there. Right. And so Sessions, he's got a tough situation here. Why he's allowed some of these people to necessarily, hang on there, it is kind of
a mind blow.
Yeah. So, this is the way things work in Washington, D.C. The polarization, I just don't believe that we're going to get past this. I just don't believe it's going to happen. I'm looking here real quickly. Let's see. A copy was Assistant Attorney General Stephen Boyd.
All right. What do you know about him?
Well, I don't know, but he's way up there if he's an Assistant Attorney General.
And how many Assistant Attorney Generals are there?
I have no idea.
Ballpark me.
6? I have, that's. Okay. I have no idea.
I just can't imagine Sessions, Robert. I can't imagine Sessions stamping this with his approval. And if he does, there ought to be a serious evaluation going on.
It says that the Justice Department is currently unaware of any wrongdoing relating to the FISA process. and says the department takes any allegations of such abuse seriously, and we agreed that any abuse of that system cannot be tolerated. So that's at least included in the letter. But
well, if you've got Nunes and Gowdy that are so gung-ho on this, either it's going to be really anticlimactic, or the Justice Department is concerned big time about getting exposed too.
Well, yeah, because they say that there are some the heads. Not only you're going to have some additional heads roll out of the bureau, but you're going to have them out of Main Justice too, and we don't know who that necessarily is. We've had a couple that was quasi rolled, like Bruce Orr.
Mm-hmm.
We've already gotten rid of Sally Yates, and then what's his face left? Dana Wante.
Well, a big hat tip to Chris Ray for actually saying, "Yeah, let's release it," because he knows heads are going to roll in the FBI.
Well, it makes his job necessarily a little bit easier if it does. You see what I'm saying? But it isn't, I think, so much, to be honest with you, Don, that any heads would necessarily roll because of the memo. They may. I think some other heads are necessarily going to roll because of the Inspector General's report.
Mm-hmm.
That's the sleeper document. That's the document that I think is much more important. I mean, I can't imagine what's in the 4-page memo. I mean, where they've been building this up to be such the crisis, the crisis of the universe.
Yeah. Well, now let me ask you this, so I can, and maybe for the help of the listeners as well. This 4-page document is a document that was drafted with information obtained from the IG's investigation.
No.
Correct?
No.
All right,
no.
Help me out there, because I thought Gowdy and Nunes were penning this 4-page memo.
Nunes wrote the memo, and I'm sure he had some editorial assistance on this. It is not a memo that's making any kind of accusations. It is not a memo that is coming to some kind of subjective conclusions. It is a memo that virtually states dates and factual events that cannot be denied.
And where do they get those dates and factual
because
events?
they are getting them because they have been requesting documents and documents and documents and documents coming out of Justice and FBI and wherever else they could possibly get them. And they've been compiling and interviewing. Remember, they're doing just as many interviews as Mueller's doing, if you understand what I'm saying, to confirm this and to confirm that. And of course, all of those, I mean, we've had who? We've had everybody from the sublime to the ridiculous. I mean,
so this memo is strictly based on congressional findings.
Correct. And documents and facts and things that really happened.
All right. Now, in your opinion, is Devin Nunes and Trey Gowdy the kind of people that are going to make a mountain out of a molehill and create some illusion that this is going to be a fascinating and exceptionally revealing memo, or are they the kind of guys that are getting all excited about this because it really is something to get excited about?
Look, the way from what I keep listening carefully and to their specifically chosen words, in fact, they would come out of Gowdy because I haven't heard much out of Devin Nunes at all on the memo. But what it is not, again, it's not making accusations. It is just stating context and facts that would necessarily deal with FISA, would necessarily deal with FBI, would necessarily deal with other warrants, other interrogations, money transfers, or whatever. Whatever else could be there as tangible evidence. So they're not making a case. They're not making a case at all. They're just saying this happened and this is beyond this limit. This happened and apparently this is beyond this law. Or that, you know what I'm saying? They're just kind of putting it out there in perspective. Now, none of it, again, could be denied by Christopher Wray and the one or two attorneys that he had with him, and several others within the Republican side of the House who have seen it all pretty much concur. In fact, some of their reactions are much worse. They're much more off the charts than Trey Gowdy's, who is not somebody that speaks to hyperbole.
Right. All right, time for me to ask you to speculate. What would be considered, in your opinion, a bombshell, to use Nancy Grace's term, a bombshell revelation that this memo would disclose to the American people?
Well, before I would have to answer that, I would have to go back and actually look and see if I could find a list of the people that were interviewed in the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence. I'd have to do that first in order to have some kind of a pathway.
You can't do that because, as all of our listeners know that listen to this show every weekend, there is no script and really there is no preparation for the Drive Time SITREP. This is a candid conversation that's taking place between Denise Simon and Don Neuen, just like every night of the week. So, ladies and gentlemen, if Denise gave me that answer, which she did, I would say, well, speculate on it. And Denise hates doing that, by the way, for all of you to know. I mean, if you were going to roll the dice on something that you think might come out of this without having the benefit of researching the individuals that were interviewed or gave testimony, what's something that could be jaw-dropping?
I would say it would probably be on surveillance abuses that necessarily occurred. Now, I think that, a lot of people are pointing to Rosenstein because he approved some of the requests that went to the FISA court to continue with some of these surveillance requests. Having said that, what he used or what was used for evidence, we keep hearing, well, it's the dossier. Well, it isn't exclusively the dossier, and we don't even know how much of the dossier. It may have been one sentence in the dossier. Now, remember, They also interviewed Glenn Simpson, who of Fusion GPS, they keep saying he wrote the dossier, but the dossier was actually done by other operatives, including Christopher Steele, and provided to Fusion GPS. Now, Fusion GPS may have taken some editorial license to it, but he didn't write it, meaning Glenn Simpson didn't write it. But nonetheless, I don't want to get off on that tangent. So we don't know how much of the dossier and what was in the dossier or what other tangible pieces of evidence were used to continue surveillance, and they keep pointing to Carter Page, who was a Trump campaign person in 2017, and he had an awful lot of verifiable de facto history in Moscow. Okay, so we can't eliminate the guy is innocent all the way around because he's not. I mean, he did. I don't want to say conspire, but because that's not the word I want either. But he did have relationships with some pretty shady characters. Having said that,
all right, hold on a second, Denise. Hold on, ladies and gentlemen. What Denise is doing right now goes against every molecule and cell in her DNA. And I need to make sure that on the record, given the fact that this is a broadcasted show, Denise never ever likes to speculate and read into something that is unsupported, at least at her level of intelligence gathering. And I'm probably one of the very few people on the planet that can actually get you to do that, and probably the only person on the planet that can get you to do it on the air. Okay?
Well, my point, to put it out there, is simply to say the symptoms are there and the clues are there that this is what is contained in that. I can't prove it, obviously, because I haven't seen it. So my gut tells me, and I will say that part because that is what has been coming to us in the last 4 or 5 days of the abuse of surveillance and FISA court limitations.
All right, now, let me ask you this, Denise. This afternoon or late this morning, I can't remember when it was, you hit me with a text message that basically said, do you remember when I said
Last
there were two
year.
dossiers.
Uh-huh. Last
All right.
year I said that.
Hold on. And I said, yep. And you said, I was right. Now, tell the listeners what's going on with the timeline of you disclosing two dossiers and what that means.
Okay, well, look, there. We know that the FBI already had their hands on a dossier. Okay. And I'm sitting out here watching those people that trot on over to Drudge, and then they trot on over to Facebook, and then they trot on over to Hearing, and they want to blame John McCain for getting the dossier and giving it to the FBI. The FBI already had it. And the way that John McCain came into possession of it is he has a foreign policy foundation. And a Brit got his hands on the dossier and tried to figure out how to get in touch with somebody in the United States. Somebody said, well, why don't you try John McCain's foundation, because it has an office apparently in London. So this person did, and then they got it to his foundation, his think tank office in London, and from there it got to John McCain. John McCain took a look at it. He was a little alarmed with this thing. He made a few phone calls to say, does anybody else know about this, and so forth and so on. And apparently people were like, yeah, it's already out there. The media is getting it, and so forth and so on. So he said, well, this is how it came to me, and he handed it off to the FBI. The FBI already had it. However, that's dossier number one. Dossier number two is and I haven't seen it, but I'm working on getting my hands on it, is a document that was done after dossier number one, validating what was in dossier number one and clarifying what was in dossier number one. So that could also be part and parcel what is part of this FISA abuse, request and so forth, is also in dossier number two. Now, this is the fascinating part, and I got to put things in context again. If you go all the way back to Libya, no, go even back further. You go all the way back to the very first WikiLeaks leak. Remember that one, when all the diplomatic cables from all of the embassies were hacked, and they ended up on WikiLeaks, and Julian Assange put them out there. And the United States intelligence community and the State Department, everybody just flipped out. Hillary had to go on a world tour and apologize and blah, 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 because in there was an awful lot of fascinating things. Least of which was that Hillary was running her own private investigative unit outside the scope of government and outside the scope of the State Department. And that included three people. I call them, our little monkeys over here, which is Tyler Drumheller, Sidney Blumenthal, and Cody Shearer. Well, they continued to operate for Hillary. Obama didn't like Sidney Blumenthal and told Hillary, if you're going to be Secretary of State, you cannot put Sidney Blumenthal on the payroll. And she's like, oh, okay, no problem. Well, in order to pay Sidney, she put him on the payroll of the Clinton Global Initiative at a rate of $10,000 a month. Now, how she paid Tyler Drumheller and Cody Shearer, I don't know. It probably came out of a miscellaneous account at the State Department. But we could advance because now we go into Libya. And Sidney Blumenthal was the one that was writing all these cool little notes to Hillary that ended up going to Hillary through John Podesta. Remember that little release? And saying, this is what we're going to do in Libya. This is what's happening in Benghazi. This is how you need to get out of the Benghazi thing and that whole scandal. And the operative on the ground was not in Libya, was not Sidney Blumenthal, but it was Cody Shearer. And in some cases, it may have even been Tyler Drumheller. Well, Tyler Drumheller was a former CIA, what his official position is, I'd have to look. It's CIA. But he's dead now. And he died because he was a big fat pig. But he
how do you really feel?
Yeah, whatever. Okay, so we still have these other two cats. He died in 2015, Tyler Drumheller. He was a CIA officer who served as the chief of the European Division for Clandestine Operations. Boy, did he hate George W. Bush. Woo!
I've read 13 Hours, and I've seen the film probably 8 to 10 times. I don't ever remember that name being mentioned in the book. Did I miss that?
No, you wouldn't. It wouldn't have been, because all of the revelations about Cody Shearer and about Tyler Drumheller and about Sidney Blumenthal all rose after Hillary was in really deep poo-poo for her complicity in the Benghazi attacks.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. I thought I was losing my mind.
Now, interesting enough, I'm actually looking at an ABC News page because I just pulled it up real fast, and they're even saying Sidney Blumenthal was a confidant who was paid by the Clinton Foundation and told the Select Committee on Benghazi that the information that Sidney Blumenthal supplied to the sitting Secretary of State came from a respected former high-ranking CIA official. Ding, ding, ding. That would be who? Tyler Drumheller. So,
gotcha.
Okay. So these three, Tyler's dead. And we now have Sidney.
And why is he dead, Denise?
I think he was a big fat blowhard. I had to be very careful here. We're on the air.
There you go. Good. Glad you remembered that.
Woo! Okay, so
because ladies and gentlemen, when Denise and I are not, recording this SITREP for you to enjoy and study and listen to and be entertained by, the language is a bit different. I got to be honest with you. Right,
but
Denise?
I'm still very good. There are some words I just.
You are very ladylike. You're very ladylike, but every once in a while, the New Yorker in you pops out, and so does a little DNA from Daddy the Marine.
Yeah. Anyway, okay, so now we have these other two blowhards, which is Tyler's dead, and we still have Sidney, and we still have Cody. They are the ones that virtually concocted dossier number 2. Now, it seems that today, when this came to the surface, of which I'm really happy with because I kind of just knew in my gut that it was around last year, media really isn't reporting this so much. A little bit from the Wall Street Journal and, of course, the Guardian, UK Guardian, but really nobody else. And so I'm kind of waiting for that to necessarily surface here in a bigger way, if it does at all. But, the State of the Union kind of takes over. But here's a fascinating thing. Our little buddy, who I've got some mad respect for his staff, and that is Senator Grassley. Because he's on the case. And I wrote a story yesterday over founderscode.com that he had written a letter to Little Miss Donna Brazile, the prevailing president at the time, or the chairman of the DNC. And Grassley, with his signature from the work from his staff, is requesting all communications from Fusion GPS, Bean LLC, which is the parent company, Glenn Simpson, Mary Jacoby, Peter Fritsch, Tom Caton, Jason Felch, Neil King, David Michaels, Taylor Sear, Orbis Business, which is Christopher Steele's operation, Orbis Business International, Walsingham Training, and then we kind of get into some other names: Ola Deripaski, Cody Shearer, Sidney Blumenthal, Victoria Newland, Bruce Orr, Peter Strzok, Andrew McCabe, James Baker, Sally Yates, Loretta Lynch, and the last one, which is even more fun, John Brennan. So when I read his letter, and that came up on my radar yesterday, and then I heard about dossier number 2 at the hands of Sidney and Cody, I was just so gratified that I wasn't out in orbit all by myself.
Well, and I'm here to testify and acknowledge, for those listeners that do not follow founderscode.com or have not been listening to the SITREP. Well, I don't know if we were doing the SITREP recorded as a radio show back when you could disclose that, but you did tell me that. You most certainly said there's 2 dossiers. And I also remember you going, I can't prove it, but my gut's telling me I know there's 2 of them.
Well, see, that was my little speculation.
Yeah.
But here's another fascinating.
Out of you.
here's another interesting little factoid as an aside, because Senator Grassley also wrote a letter to Joel Benenson. Well, who might Joel Benenson be? Glad you asked. He happened to be the pollster for Hillary for America, and he's a piece of work, this one. And he was also a former top advisor to Barack Obama. He was the chief strategist for Hillary's 2016 campaign, a consultant, and a person that was very familiar with her. Now, since all of that little Hillary thing for president kind of fell apart, it hasn't escaped Senator Grassley where Joel Benenson is and what he's doing these days, and what he had been doing and what he necessarily coordinated. So his wife, by the way, is Priscilla Chan, but there's a fellow by the name of Mark Zuckerberg. You know him, right?
Yeah, he is not one of my friends on Facebook.
Yeah, well, it seems that Mark Zuckerberg and his wife Priscilla decided that they thought they would hire Joel Benenson. So they have a little operation now called the Chan Zuckerberg Initiative. And this was done by Joel Benenson of Benenson Strategy Group. So if you don't think there's not some other kind of influence over there at Facebook, you might want to think again.
Yeah, well, clearly it is. I don't know if you're seeing it, but I am seeing it. I'm seeing it on Twitter and Facebook. I mean, there are times when I've got nothing but ads running down my, the timeline that
That's
you go to.
Supposed to stop, by the way. They said that they were going to stop that as of, I think, February the 1st, those ads.
Well, here's the deal. And you've talked about this before, about the nefarious actions by social media. But, Donna was trying to post some stuff last night to Twitter, and it was not happening for her. It was not happening. She couldn't get this stuff to post properly. And, you've got a bunch of friends. I got a ton of friends on Facebook. You would think that if I would go to my timeline, that I would read and read and read and read about all these people that are my friends. That's not the case. I am hugely limited in what I see on my timeline of Facebook.
That's that shadow blocking thing that we heard about a couple of weeks ago, huh? Mm-hmm.
That's right. Now, I can also tell you that I have never landed in Facebook jail. So whatever I'm posting, I'm doing it with enough tact that they're not able to pop me and stick me in jail, unlike some of my esteemed colleagues like Kaleem Stevens and Manny up there, Manny Vega, he's always in jail. Sean Atkins always ended up in. Rocky Stucci ends up in jail about once a week. And, for whatever reason, they've kept me out of jail. But I'm telling you, I'm not seeing anything. I see the same stuff from probably 15 or 20 people. And that's with a friends list that's always hovering at 5,000 friends.
I'm looking at as an aside here, I'm looking that for people to get into the State of the Union address, all guests, they have to present their IDs. And of course, we have some Democrats out there that are saying this is the way that they're checking to see if they're illegal aliens or not. Well, you have to have an ID to get into a government building, period.
Listen, are you not as sick as I am of the absurdity of the left? I mean,
well, the Capitol Police are the ones that are doing the checking, so.
Well, as they should.
Uh-huh.
Just like they ought to keep doing it in the little church that I go to in my hometown of 197 people, when all the little gray-haired ladies know me when I go in to vote. Hi, Don. How you doing? Let me see your ID. I'm so sick of this crap about ID. Back to you, Denise.
Okay, so in the meantime...
Oh, wait a minute. Hold on. Along with that text message that you sent me earlier today, you pointed out that these two dossiers were under the direction of Hillary Clinton?
Well, we know the first one was under it was probably under the direction of Hillary Clinton, but the law firm Perkins Coie is the one that hired and paid Fusion GPS. Okay. Now, Perkins Coie not only did legal work for Hillary, but they also did legal work for the DNC. So I think the $1.5 million or whatever monies were paid to Fusion GPS was paid by Perkins Coie, but the money went to Perkins Coie from some account associated with Hillary and some account associated with the DNC. Dossier number 2, I would argue, was probably much more exclusive to Hillary than it was the DNC. Although Senator Grassley wrote the letter to Donna Brazile with those names in it, so I can't take the DNC out of dossier number 2. But we have a proven history here that Drumheller and Blumenthal and Scheer all worked for Hillary. But remember, too, Donna Brazile also said that Hillary took over the DNC. Remember that part? Exactly.
The DNC and Hillary Clinton are
one and the same. Uh-huh.
Yeah. Uh-huh. Okay.
Ooh, baby, which I think, by the way, we might as well just open up another investigation, because I think the federal elections, that's a violation of the Federal Elections Commission, but I don't know.
I would say that if Hillary Clinton sneezes or farts, it's a violation of sneeze ethics and fart ethics. Would you not agree? And I think I can say fart on the air. If not,
I think I have.
Apologies to. Okay, all right. Well, then I don't need to apologize.
No, I think I said
Steve
fart.
Or
F-A-R-C. Yeah, I think I said
fart.
Well,
yeah, I know you've said that, and we had to spell it to make sure. But, all right, well, hey, ladies and gentlemen, for those of you that are tuning in for the first time, I am truly sorry that you have missed the last 6 to 8 months of the Drive Time SITREP. You've got on one end of this conversation Denise Simon. My name is Don Neuen. Denise has her own weekly radio show on Talk America Radio and our affiliate that is called the Denise Simon Experience. And this show airs for the first time every week, Thursday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern. Donna Fiducia and I, many of you probably know, have a show called Cowboy Logic Radio that airs Tuesday nights, 9 p.m. Eastern on Talk America Radio, as well as our affiliates. Once a week, Denise and I record our nightly SITREP, or situation report, and we air it as what she and I consider to be probably the most unique radio show out there. Why is it unique? Because it's simply a telephone conversation. I'm talking to you from my personal car driving home late after work. Denise is down in her bunker near Tampa, Florida, and this is just a conversation back and forth that we have every night of the week, where Denise brings me up to speed and, quite frankly and honestly, makes me appear to be much more intelligent than I actually am when I do Cowboy Logic Radio or talk to you people outside of this particular show. Denise Simon has a website that you all need to go to. I would suggest that you each bookmark it. I would also suggest that you enter your email address into the little field that says sign up for her daily newsletter or whatever it says on your site, so that all of her posts will come directly to you in your inbox. That website, get ready to write it down, ladies and gentlemen, is founderscode.com. The word founder with an S, meaning more than one founder, code.com, founderscode.com. This site, if you will follow it and you will study it, will do two things. Number one, it will make you more intelligent, or at least appear to be more intelligent than you actually are, much like it does me. The other thing that it will do is it will give you well-vetted, credible information that you can share and repost, so that you don't look like the victim of a Russian or a left-wing troll that has somehow hoodwinked you into posting nonsense in social media. Wasn't that do you feel that's a fair assessment, Denise, of how they can benefit by subscribing to your posts and going to your website?
Well, look, thank you for all that. But not to kind of toot my own horn, but I do listen to the testimonies on all kinds of topics. I do read the nonfiction books. I do look at the citations. I do pull up those documents. I grab the testimonies. I watch the media sources from all over the world. And you'll never find me at Drudge unless Don sends me over there to go look at a headline.
Yeah. Well, and you're leaving out a very important facet here, Denise. Who's your buddy?
You.
Who's one of your best buddies on the planet?
You.
And who am I?
Don Neuen.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen. And let's all remember it. Hey, we got about, 10 or 12 minutes here, Denise. And
all right, well, so then let's talk about Andrew McCabe and the FBI here for a little bit, shall we?
Why do you think he stepped down?
Well, I believe that he stepped down because of what is coming out in the Inspector General's report and not because of the 4-page memo. I believe he stepped down because they have found some really nasty looking connections and monies and phone calls and text messages dealing with the Terry McAuliffes of the world and the other Hillary camp contributors to Jill McCabe's state Senate run. And the fact that he was using some FBI assets, FBI stuff in order to help her with her campaign. A colossal violation of the Hatch Act.
All right, so let me ask you this. Hold on. First of all, the number that is quite staggering, and I believe that his wife was running for nothing more than a state Senate seat.
Correct.
The amount of money that we're talking about here is in excess of $700,000, right?
No. It is. No. It's higher than that. It's about $1.3 million.
Oh, well, now that's the first time I've heard that number.
Well, if you just trot on over to founderscode.com, you would have read the article on how many people and who they were that had contributed to her campaign and what positions they held within the Hillary operation.
How about that, ladies and gentlemen? Right here, you heard it on the Drive Time SITREP at approximately 8:19 p.m. Eastern on Tuesday, whatever the date is today, the 30th of January. Denise Simon just chastised one Don Neuen for not reading every article on her website.
Didn't say everyone.
You said that particular one.
But anyway, no, it was much higher than the 700,000. McAuliffe arranged for to be able to give little Jill McCabe 700,000, but there were several other people that were contributing 20,000 here, 10,000 there, 80,000 here, and they were all coming out of the Hillary world. Now, what part of the Hillary world? I haven't looked at it in a couple of months, so I can't. I can't remember all those names and all those people, but they were certainly contributors to Hillary, bundler kind of things. Now, why would this ever happen? I am here to tell you that you will soon find out that Jill McCabe didn't want to run for state Senate. She couldn't have cared less. This was a way for Hillary to use Terry McAuliffe as the interlocutor to ingratiate the Hillary world to the FBI because of the email server scandal. Very interesting.
Very interesting.
That's how that whole thing came down. Hillary needed help because she had to make that problem go away, a problem she caused herself and was festering, especially when the whole Anthony Weiner nonsense blew up, and then they found some stuff on the Anthony Weiner laptops. Remember that one? And Hillary,
you'll never know what you'll find on the Weiner.
So the point is that what Hillary needed to do was she needed to get to some top people at the FBI, not Comey, but McCabe. And I would argue Bill Priestap, and nobody talks about little Mr. Bill.
All right,
okay?
So Denise, if you and I would have engaged in any of these activities that you've been describing for the past 50 minutes, we would probably go to jail, prison, correct? Probably?
Yeah.
A pretty good chance of it, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And there was a numbnut down in Florida that was supposed to go to prison for a sum of $800,000 contribution fraud or whatever that ended up being the charge. And I don't remember what her name is.
Corinne Brown?
She was supposed to go on the 5th, and she ended up going, I think, this week or last week.
Yesterday or something. Yep.
Yeah. So are we going to see some jail time? And please don't tell me no.
You know, we are getting much closer to, I think, somebody is going to go down. And the somebody may not be necessarily who we want to go down. But because these people are, you know, they're the power brokers, and they will find a fall person. They will find somebody to throw under the bus and say, this person did it, this person did it, this person did it. So somebody pretty unexpected is probably going to go serve some jail time. Other people are going to go, okay, these are the charges. And if you want a plea deal, tell us what, you know, who else we can, you know, get out of this plea deal. And we'll see if we can, you know, get some kind of an agreement on a plea deal. And then you need to pay a $500,000 fine. And then you're going to get 10 years probation and 200 hours of community service.
Right. And that guy's name would be McCabe.
It might be. It might be
and why is he
Peter
able,
Strzok. It might be Lisa Page. It might be, you know, somebody over at the Justice Department. It might be several others. We don't know. I mean, the fascinating thing is the one person that I think ought to go to jail of all of them is Yuma Abedin.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that. I'll tell you what else I don't have a problem with, and I will have an enormous problem if it isn't implemented, and that is all of these people that you're talking about that are going to hopefully be found guilty of nefarious or illegal actions should not receive their pensions or their lifetime benefits. And that ought to be stripped up. And please tell me there's a chance that'll happen as well.
Well, McCabe is getting his, and that makes me pretty angry. Apparently, after this whole weekend thing, it was told to him, son, we're demoting you. And you have a choice. You're either going to be demoted or you're going to be terminated. And he said he wasn't going to take the demotion, but on a termination, it would mean for whatever crime that he committed that he had to be terminated for, he wouldn't get his pension. Well, apparently several outlets are reporting pretty much the same thing, that he said, I'll tear this FBI bureau apart piece by piece if I don't get my pension. So they let him go immediately, but he's still essentially on the payroll and he is getting his pension. So he's got the keys to the kingdom being in his job, and he could take some interesting people down. And I think somebody caved to this little cat a little too fast.
I agree. Blood will shoot out of my eyes if he ends up getting his pension.
Well, he does. He is getting it.
Yeah, but somebody can reverse that and strip it and come back and go, tell you what, buddy, you bring the FBI down. Bring it on, boy.
Well, here's the other piece, because the Inspector General's report is going to show when they found the documents of the emails on the Anthony Weiner laptop. And remember when Comey said, hey, we're going to reopen the case? Well, yeah, it put, when Comey said that, it put McCabe in a very bad situation, because remember, we have a quid pro quo here going on between McCabe and his wife and McAuliffe and the Hillarys and blah, 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 blah. So what did McCabe do? He goes, okay, Comey wants to reopen the case here on the Anthony Weiner, Yuma Abedin emails, so we're going to have to assign some people to it. And what did he do? For 3 weeks or so, he did nothing. Yeah. Until after the election. And then I would argue he still didn't do anything. Because what happened? Other scandals brewed, didn't they? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, I tell you what, one silver lining to this whole cloud could be that the Democrat Party is damaged so badly in the eyes of the American people that 2018 can be beneficial to the Republican Party, and we need it to be beneficial to the Republican Party.
Here,
do we do 2020.
Exactly. And this comes down to who's going to concoct the messages and the talking points, and who's going to help us, deliver them. But here's a fascinating thing that happened yesterday that nobody's really talking about. And in the Senate,
you got about a minute.
In the House, they passed the bill, but in the Senate, they get the bill for legislation to make it illegal to have a abortion after 20 weeks. You have to have 60 votes. Couldn't get them. The Democrats wouldn't do it. Now that doesn't change because of those Democrats in the Senate. That puts us on par with China's child policy, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, there you go. If for nothing else, that right there ought to destroy the entire Democrat Party.
Ladies and gentlemen, you've been listening to the Drive Time Situation Report, the Drive Time SITREP with Denise Simon, and my name is Don Neuen. As you can tell by listening to this show, we've not taken any commercial breaks whatsoever. It's 52 minutes of nonstop information. Clearly, we don't do this for the money. We do it for you, our beloved listeners, and our beloved affiliates and networks. I would like to ask, in return, that you share this program with your friends and family so that more people will listen. That's why we do it. And I would also like to ask that if you have a radio station in your hometown that from 9 o'clock at night Eastern on is playing repeat shows that have taken place throughout the day, or they go dark, meaning they shut their tower down and they don't broadcast at all, or they've got boring nothingness programming going on overnight, that you give them a call and you say, you know what, I got a solution to your terrible programming. It's the Talk America Radio overnight programming package. And send them to talk to Ron Phillips at Talk America Radio. That's what WDDQ, WJHC, and WLBB all are doing. They lock on to our stream, the Justice Stream, at Talk America Radio, starting at 9 p.m. at night, and they go until 6 a.m. in the morning. They have live programming with Matt Bruce overnight. They've got excellent programming, if I do say so myself, with shows like Cowboy Logic Radio, the Denise Simon Experience, and the Drive Time SITREP, along with a bunch of other shows. Chris X Radio, the Conservative Cartel, Behind Enemy Lines. It's great programming. Audrey Russo, Real Talk, and Black Man Thinking with Stan Levy. I encourage you to contact your radio stations and ask them to pick it up. It's free of charge. Denise, we got to go. We're way over on time. Say goodnight only as you do.
Good night. Good night only as I can to all of you listeners out there. God bless America.